Good evening, everybody out there in internet land, whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, wherever you are on the planet. Good evening. My name is Joe Luzza. Also want to introduce Mr. Vince Loccisano. And Vince, can you introduce your special guest for this evening?
Yes, Joe, no problems. Good evening to you and good evening, everyone. And, of course, we're joined again this week at my instigation and due to popular demand, Mr. Peter Brown, 1979 Premiership player. G'day, Brownie. Thanks for joining us again tonight, mate.
Hey, guys. I don't know about popular demand, but yeah.
Now,
I can
Peter,
tell you, by popular demand.
Now, Peter, I just want to play a little grab of something that you may recall. So just hang on.
Hey, boys, how are you? What are you doing? What are you blokes doing out here at the Tross? What? Listen. You guys do the podcast. What's a Carlton player you think of by the name of Brown?
One game superstar, Monty Brown.
No.
John Brown, 90 games.
No, more recent than that.
Ted Brown, 1915 Premiership player.
No.
Doggy Brown! Doggy Brown, Premiership player.
Razor Brown.
Try Peter Brown. Try Peter Brown.
Peter Brown? When did he play in a Premiership?
79?
Really?
You guys don't know it, and you're Carlton support. Listen, don't even worry about watching the jumper punch. Forget it. These blokes are fucked.
So, Peter, do you recall that moment where you said, don't watch the jumper punch, and here you are, basically on the jumper punch?
On the Jumper Punch channel, anyway, on Blue Sunday.
Well, as it turns out, Vince had invited me to do an interview, and it was to do with our with the players that had played in winning premierships and their numbers. And as they went through all of the numbers, they got to me, and Vince rang me out of the blue one day and said to me, "How would you like to do an interview when we want to interview all of the players, and and you're number 41, and we've got up to number 41, so we'd like to interview you." I said, "Really? You want to interview someone like me that played bugger all games and stuff like that?" And he said, "Yeah."
Well, it wasn't bugger all games. I think you played something like 38 games. Is that right, Brownie?
39, I think you said last week, didn't you?
Something like that.
I actually, believe it or not, I actually got 30, I think it was 35 with Carlton, and then ended up playing something like about 20 at St Kilda at the time.
Yes,
so I got over to 50.
Exactly, and played very well too. And you took some beautiful marks and kicked some wonderful goals at full forward. And you're also switched across the full back a few times, including in the 1979 Premiership itself. So, the 1979 Grand Final, I should say. So, yes, it's great to have you back. And obviously you keep up with the game and you know your stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we've got you back, because we'd love you to join us in dissecting the Carlton game of the week. And we're very pleased that you could join us again this evening, mate.
No problem.
Vince,
all right, Joe.
Before we get to the Carlton game, why don't you give us a summary of what's happened so far?
Well, I will indeed, if you like. First of all, of course, we started with the Carlton and Geelong game on Thursday night. And, of course, Carlton, 13 goals, 12-90, defeated Geelong 12-10-82. Main goal kickers for the game were Jeremy Cameron for Geelong, kicking 6. Charlie Curnow for Carlton, 5 goals. Matthew Owies, 3. And, of course, Oliver Henry for Geelong, kicking 2 goals, and the rest were single goal kickers. So it was a pretty close tussle for most of the night, but we managed to get a bit of a lead towards the end of the third quarter, and a 23-point lead looked fairly cushy, but not guaranteed of a win. And we managed to find a way to make it a close game again, didn't we? But this time we were good enough to hold on. The other games that were completed for the round, the Brisbane Lions, they played Melbourne, of course, and the scores there were 14 goals, 9, eventually, 14 goals, 9, 93. to 13-4, 82. And
the
of course, that game was delayed quite a lot. Yeah, quite a lot because of the lights being on the blink. Get used to this happening a lot more often, by the way, gents, now with all of this renewable energy that we're relying on. But anyway, I won't go there.
Cut that bit out.
No, why? It's all rubbish.
I'm joking.
Anyway,
we're live, Vince.
Yeah, I know that. Anyway, and on Saturday afternoon, wasn't it an impressive performance by Collingwood? 21 goals, 9, 135, defeating Port Adelaide, last week's giant killers over Brisbane. They got humbled, 9 goals, 10, 64 by some 71 points. We also saw Richmond go across to Adelaide and get the better of the Adelaide Crows. The Tigers ended up with 17 goals, 6, 108 to 10 goals, 16, 76. And then last night, of course, probably what a lot of people would have thought was a big upset with St Kilda playing very impressively, 14 goals, 892 to the Western Bulldogs, a mere 5 goals, 11, 41. I couldn't believe that scoreline. But anyway, and of course, the close one of the round, 2 wins in a row. They only won 2 games for the whole of last year, and they've won 2 games for the first 2 games of the season this year.
We're on the Clarkson train.
Yes, not 11 goals, 773. Controversially defeating the Fremantle Dockers over there in Perth, 10 goals, 12-72. Of course, a controversial non-decision at the end not to pay a free kick to Fremantle for deliberate out of bounds. I saw that the AFL predictably came out today and defended the decision, which was absolute rubbish, saying that the siren had gone before the ball went out, and there's quite clear evidence to say that it didn't. But anyway, that's another story. We'll let them fight it out. Sydney Swans today really humbling Hawthorn, didn't they? Of course, over there at the SCG, 17-16, 118. And Hawthorn, a long way to go, haven't they? 4 goals, 13-37, an 81-point walloping of the Hawks by the Sydney Swans. So the battle of the birds there. And today, Essendon getting the better of Gold Coast Suns. The Bombers 16-12, 108 to the Gold Coast Suns 11 goals, 14, 80. And tonight, the game is still going, but it looks like the Eagles, who have only won 2 out of their last 27 games before tonight, and they are currently 13 goals, 8, 86 to the GWS Giants, 7 goals, 5, 47. A 39-point lead there halfway through the third quarter. So it looks like the Eagles should hold on there for sure.
Thanks for that summary, Vince. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to the main game that we're all here for, Carlton versus Geelong. Before we do that, I'm just going to stick up a couple of slides. I'll just quickly talk through them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see that one, but that just shows a bit of a disposal, the count.
So Carlton's even on the left? Is Carlton on the left and Geelong on the right?
Carlton's on the left. So, I mean, it was pretty even, 300 odd disposals each. We had a lot more kicks. They had a few more handballs. They had 10 inside 50s more. So you can see the disposal efficiency is quite even. And the efficiency inside our 50, we tended to use the ball a bit better. Contested possession and uncontested possession. So we beat them there. And uncontested possession turnovers. I mean, the stats show a pretty... Well, the one that got me was the centre clearances. I don't know whether... I don't know whether we missed Hewitt a lot. Peter can probably tell us a bit more about that because he's a bit more au fait with AFL football than you and me, Vince. But it was interesting to note that we did the hit-outs. I thought Tom De Koning did a good job. I don't really think much of their ruckman, Tom Stanley. I think he's a bit of a hack,
Reece
to be honest.
Stanley.
Reece Stanley. What did I say, Tom?
Yeah.
Reece Stanley, I think he's a bit of a hack, but they're all saying he was injured. So, Brownie, I'll go to you first, being the ex-player. What did you make of Thursday night's game?
Well, in last week's podcast, we discussed, or Vinny Catoggio and you guys discussed the fact that our crummers and our runners didn't have enough input into the game the week before against Richmond. This is the area where I thought that we'd improved out of sight on Thursday night against Geelong. Interestingly enough, one of the statistics that you were just talking about was contested possession, and I thought our contested possessions were actually better than Geelong's, than the actual statistics show. And when you said about the inside 50s, I think, and someone said this at the end of the game, one of the commentators, and I'm not sure who it was, it might have been with Fox Footy, but they said that the actual scoreline sort of flattered Geelong a little bit. I think in that last quarter was they had more inside 50s and they actually outscored us in that last quarter.
Yeah.
And I think that made their statistics look a lot more flattering than what they actually were for 3/4 of the game.
Yeah. I think, Peter, what happened was, and I looked at the stats at halftime, we were just bombing away. We were only about 10 points up. We should have been at least 4 or 5 goals up. We clearly wasted chances in that first half, but our crummers were better. I mean, we've got small forwards like Durden, Owies, Motlop, Honey. We seem to just get inconsistencies. I mean, I think Jesse Motlop's going to be a player, but we need someone else to help him. You know, Jack Silvani hasn't been very good in the last 2 games, so I don't know. Vince, over to you. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I was just having a look at some of these stats. I thought we had the lion's share of the ball. I mean, the disposals, you said about 300 each. As a matter of fact, we had 382 to their 328. So I think that's a fairly significant discrepancy. So I think we had a lot of the ball. 271 effective disposals at 71% efficiency to 223, which was at 68%. I thought Geelong were a bit sloppy with the ball on Thursday night. We had a lot more kicks, 247 kicks to their 188. So we were chipping it around a little bit more, and that's probably helped our efficiency as well. We weren't just bombing it into the forward line. I think we were a bit more measured about the way we delivered the ball. And handballs were about even. We had definitely the lion's share of the free kicks, 24-15. I'm not sure if there's anything in that. At the end of the day, the umpires pay them when they see them. I don't think they keep a tally and try and even up the score at any stage. I don't see that happening. But,
it's always where you get them, Vince. Doesn't matter how many, it's where you get them.
Where and when you get them too. But look, I just felt that we had their measure for the majority of the night, and I really did feel that even though they did come back at us kicking the first couple of goals in that last quarter, that we steadied and we didn't look like losing that game, in my view anyway. I was sitting there feeling pretty comfortable that we were going to hold on. It was a fantastic late spoil, wasn't it, by Ollie Hollins, that pass that was going to hit Jeremy Cameron on the chest again. And he showed a lot of courage to get in the way of that pass and intercept it. They're the sort of acts that win games of football, and I think the kid can hold his head up high. He played a really good second game of football for him. Not that last week was anything to be ashamed about. He ran his little backside off last week for not many possessions, I think about 11. But I thought against Geelong he did even better. But look, I think we were more steady, and I think there were some telling contested marks in that last 10 minutes or so. What were your thoughts, Brownie? I thought Harry Mackay and especially, and a couple of others really stood tall there in that last 10 minutes when we needed just a steadying mark or two just to settle the boys down.
I think what happened, Vince, was that in that last 10 minutes of that last quarter, that's the time where the game's on the line. So there was guys that you mentioned. Harry Mackay, he took 2 telling marks in and around between, say, half-back and the wing, which I thought were fairly important grabs. Young took one in between 2 Geelong
Young was the other one.
Forwards, which I thought at that stage they were on a run, and he took a telling mark there. Even though Youngie didn't play as well as he did the week before, I can excuse the fact that, and like you before said, that Jeremy Cameron, he was the best man on the ground for mine, and
Yes,
I wasn't a massive fan of Jeremy Cameron, but after last week's game, I've got to say that my admiration for him has improved out of sight. Not only did he kick goals, but he also created opportunities up the ground. He was even in the back line. He was actually spent some time up there as well as in the mids. So and he was the danger man for me for Geelong. It really didn't look like the Geelong were going to have anybody else. I thought Rowan's game was quiet. Dangerfield, I think that was one of the worst ones I've seen him play.
Yeah.
Guys like Guthrie and these sort of guys, they didn't have a real influence on the game like they had been. Myers contributed, but I thought that our back line stood up under some fairly tight scrutiny in that last 10 minutes, and they didn't panic, which was more important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I echo your thoughts about Jeremy Cameron. He was clearly the best man on the ground. In fact, at times I was in awe of him. I just thought this guy's trying to carry his team over the line just on his own shoulders. It was a magnificent performance, let's be honest. But you're right, I do wonder about even the fitness of a couple of the key Geelong players, like their captain Patrick Dangerfield and Tom Hawkins as well. I just felt that they weren't quite right. There was something there telling me they're either not fit or they're a couple of runs short of where they need to be to run out a game. They lack that second and third effort at times.
Well, Vince, you got to remember that Tom Hawkins is coming off a foot surgery. Didn't really have a pre-season. Dangerfield, look, Peter will tell you this. It's a long season, right? It's not even April, and everyone's going, "Oh, he's not this and he's not that." I mean, have a look at them last year. After 9 games, we were 8-1, and they were 4-5. Well, who won the premiership? Not Carlton. We didn't even make the finals. So, I mean, if they drop one, apparently, according to the pundits, they have 4 easier games coming up this week, this month. If they drop 1 or 2 of them, maybe I'd worry. But 0 and 2, I don't think there's much to worry about there at the moment. Anyway, Peter. One thing
Peter. Sorry, Pete. Were you going to say something then?
I was actually going to say that the season, as Joe alluded to, is long. If you looked at Jeremy Cameron towards the end of that game, he was sore, and
he got one in the ribs.
Yeah, don't be surprised if he doesn't suit up next week because and don't forget these sides manage the older players too, so they will wrap them in cotton wool for the week. And get them over the line. And if they're half fit, they're obviously going to be on the ground. To your point about Hawkins, he was. I think he was carrying just by the way that he was moving, even though he's still a presence on the ground and he demands a backman. And there was a couple of times where our guys perhaps didn't give him the credit that they should have and give him the respect that they should have. And if it wasn't for a couple of little instances, the result could have been very different.
Could have been. Yeah. Before we go on, I just want to say to our viewers, feel free, more than free, to make comments, ask questions. You can ask anything you want. You got Peter here. He's played in the big times, not like me and Vince. We We just go there and drink beer and watch it and think we're armchair experts. But no, we're more than happy for comments, any questions.
And don't forget to like and share and press the subscribe button as well while you're at it on the Jumper Punch channel.
Tell your friends, tell your grandmother. Hey, Peter, what is our best forward structure? So we've got two big forwards in Harry and Charlie. We've got Motlop, we've got AEST, Durden, Silvani. Are we playing Harry at full forward or centre half forward, or are we playing? Where are we playing him? What? You're the forward line coach. Hey, give me your forward structure.
Well, what I would do is I would start Harry out between full forward and centre half forward, and I know I'm speaking in old language here. I'd start Curnow back in the square and allow the runners like AEST and Dern and these guys to be able to move up the ground and then swoop. Then I would have them alternating. I would actually use them reversing their roles. I'd have Harry drop back into the square, and then I'd have Curnow coming up the ground a little further. I made comment last week about the fact that I thought Harry's work up the ground was really good, and he certainly looks better on the move than what he does stuck in the square. One of the things that was pretty interesting on Thursday night was our entries into 50. They were a lot quicker, and I thought early in the game we tried to control the centre of the ground, and there was a couple of times where Geelong were able to shut us down, and in doing so was allowing that avenue to goal to be shut off. Now, when we did actually go through, and we were looking at it all the time, and there were some mistakes made. Sarah was one of them that probably made a few mistakes earlier on, and to his credit, he fought back. But that would be my ideal structure in the forward line. Now, you mentioned Jack Silvani just before. He is probably, and I spoke to Vince about this the other day when we were having a chat, he's never going to be a player which is going to give you 6 and 7 goals a game. He's going to be a link man. I think that's about the best that you can hope for with Jack. I don't think he's in a situation where he's going to be a major forward. The first game against Richmond, as I said, there were 3 forwards flying and Jack was in amongst it. I still think he has a role to play in the side. But like I said before, start off with Harry working up the ground a little, and then having Curnow in the square.
Can I ask you about, so we've got the bigs. So you've got Jack, who can play tall, but is a medium forward. What's your thoughts on Jack Martin?
Jack Martin, I think, will get better. I think that and interestingly enough, Martin's always going to be either a small forward or a mid. He will get better as the year goes on. And I think I one of the things that was really pleasing was Thursday night. Our well, I call them mids, but all of the players that were in and under the ball, I thought they did a ripper job, and he will be a part of that program.
Just talking about what we'd call the mids, and Vince, feel free to answer if you want. Are we playing TDK and Pitternet, or just TDK, or just Pitternet? Vince, I'll go to you first.
Well, I just felt that we looked a lot better with Pitternet in the side on Thursday night. I felt more comfortable that we had a genuine ruckman up against their ruckman, and I think we play better with him in the team, and I think our midfielders get more first use of the ball when he's in the ruck. I think TDK is still learning the craft. I'm not sure that he's a genuine ruckman of the future. I'm really not. I can't help but think he's more of a key position option, whether it's up forward or down back. I'm not 100% sure, but maybe the way to tackle it with him is to play him down back and see how he goes. And if he gets a lot of confidence there, then he can be swung up forward if need be, especially if someone like Harry or Charlie go down for whatever reason. But I think Pitnet and De Conning in the same team is the way to go. And I don't want to see Silvani, honestly, pinch hitting in the ruck anymore. I don't think we're doing ourselves any favours, and I don't think we're doing Jack any favours. You're shaking your head, Brandy. You don't agree with that, or you do agree with that?
No. I agree. I agree that as a look, he filled a role why Pitnet wasn't in the side. But to your point before about particularly more so the centre contests, it seems to the setup of our mids seems to be a lot more confident with him in the contest rather than De Conning. Now, that's no criticism of De Conning. He's only young and he's going to learn his trade. But and to your point before, Vince, I'd play De Conning behind the ball, to be honest with you, as an intercept. I think he's young enough, and I think he's fit enough, and I think he can add some value there. And Silvani, probably a bit player, if you need to give Harry a rest or something like that, you could bring Silvani on and use him in that role.
Yeah. Do you think that Silvani? Sorry, Joe. I was going to finish off on that point.
Yeah.
I felt Silvani did some nice things on Thursday, and I think when he's leading up along the boundary line, especially along those flanks, that's where he plays his best football, when he's leading forward, taking marks in front of him, and then kicking it, obviously in towards the full forward line. And I think that's where he plays his best football, leading up from half forward, even up towards the wing.
Yeah, I guess so. I look, going on Peter's point, I think we're lucky in that TDK is not like your lumbering ruckman. So take Reece Stanley, for example. If you played Pito and Reece Stanley in the same team, they're both just ruckman. Whereas, as Peter says, you could throw TDK down back. Like you could put him at centre half back or a kick behind the play, or you could say, divide the ground into half and put him like that. But I mean, I think Melbourne have tried it, and now Max Gorner's gone down. I mean, it was working. The Dogs are trying it with that Tim Darcy, but I think he's like Pito. He's way too young. So, Peter, what about our backs? What do you think about our back structure? You've got Weeders maybe at fullback and Lewis Young at centre half back. He's been fantastic, I think, Lewis Young. And then you've got Adam Sard trying to break the lines. You've got Doherty. We've got that young Cowan who looks okay. What do you think about our back structure, Peter?
Like I said last week, probably one of the things that I still lack in the back line is a general. And he's the one that's going to direct traffic. Look, they all did some nice things. There was a couple of times that I felt that our backs were sucked up the ground and the ball came over the back, and there was an easy possession for Geelong, and they scored out of it. So we've just got to be mindful of the fact that if you're actually going to be sucked up the ground, you need to have someone back on the safety net. And I think that's something that we lack there. From the point of view of Doherty and Cowan and these guys, look, I think they will get better. The one that you didn't mention was McGovern, and I thought McGovern's game was ordinary at the best.
Me too.
On Thursday night. Now, that's two reasonably ordinary games that he's had. Now, if he's going to be fulfilling that role of the intercept, then we need to be in a situation where he's got to either get some form or go and find, or go out, one of the two.
Go and buy it.
Yeah, well, but from the point of view of an important role like that, what I'd be trying De Conning behind the ball rather than rely upon McGovern to do the job.
Yeah. So, Peter, you talk about a general down back. Does that general have to be a big-bodied player like Melbourne have got Lever and May? Does it have to be someone like a Jacob Wiedering or Lewis Young, or can that be like someone like Sam Doherty? You've played down back. What are your thoughts?
Oh, look, I think that it doesn't have to be a big player, but it has to be a forceful player. The one that Brisbane, right? If you look at that, that's when, what's his name? The guy that went from Hawthorn up there. They call him the General.
You mean Hodge?
Sorry,
Hodge, Luke Hodge.
Sorry, Hodge. Just escaped me. I'm having a senior moment. Hodgie. Now,
right.
When he was playing off half-back in Brisbane, all he was doing was directing traffic. The young blokes around him grew an extra leg. Now, Wiedering, no, don't think so. Although they interviewed him after the game and they called him the General, but no, I've got a big question
Panic
mark.
attack.
Big question mark. But like a Hodge in that role, and then all that does is that allows the backs to actually be able to cover what's coming in and cover it quickly, rather than being in a situation where they get found out. Now, you mentioned Saab before, right? Now, Saab's been doing this for a long time, is running off half back and trying to create, et cetera, et cetera. One of the problems that Saad's got is that a lot of the sides now are a wake up to him, and they're in a situation where he finds himself in some pretty awkward positions on occasions, and the ball gets turned over too quickly and easily for mine. So, this is a really important role for any side, let alone Carlton. But that's one of the things that I have identified, and I've mentioned this to Vince on a couple of calls that we've had during the week, that is still lacking in that situation. So still want to see one back there.
I know. I heard Jacob Wiedering being interviewed. He sounds too nice to be sort of like Luke Hodge and yelling at people. He's the sort of bloke who sort of says, and this is no disrespect to him. He sort of sounds like, "Excuse me, Peter, would you mind going and picking up that guy? Whereas you need someone to go and pick him up now." He looks too polite. Vince, we've had a couple of comments and we spoke about it. Lana's put it up. We'll talk about the mids and we'll include like the wings. So this year we've had Ollie Hollands and Blake Acres, who I think have been great additions. I don't know if Rob Galicio, my mate's watching, but thank God Jack Nunes is gone. I wasn't a big fan, Peter. What do you think about our mid structure? These, remember that probably one of our best mids, Sam Walsh, is yet to play. So what are you thinking, Vince?
Yeah, look, I must admit I was a little concerned going into Thursday night's game when, George Hewitt wasn't named in the side. And I thought, well, that means Walsh is out and Hewitt's out. We're down to Cripps, Chera, and
Kennedy.
But then again, we also had the services of a guy that a lot of people have forgotten about, and I thought he played a really good game on Thursday night, and that's Ed Curnow. Yes, 33-year-old Ed Curnow, the only guy in his 30s that's on our list. And I thought he did an admirable job. He laid 8 tackles, got 26 possessions, and even kicked the goal. He is, he's played already 2 very good games, and I think if he keeps finding the ball as often as he does and keeps playing that role very effectively, I can't see him being pushed out of the team. So I think we do have backup. I think we've got a list now that goes deep, and we can cover certain players when they go out injured or suspended. So I'm a lot more comfortable that we can cover most positions on the ground now if someone happens to be out. But look, I do think that Akers and Ollie Hollands have performed very, very well on the wings. Even Lockie O'Brien, who, for all intents and purposes last year played a fairly good role on one of the wings. He can't get a regular gig in the side at the moment. He's coming on as a sub, and he's doing a reasonable job of it. But at the moment, he's not going to push out one of those two, that's for sure. I thought Akers had a vastly better game this week than last week. And as I said earlier, I thought Hollands played even better than he did last week. So he's gotten off to a flying start. He must be certainly in contention for the Rising Star Award this year, the way he's going. Hopefully he keeps up. We're only very early into the season. But the other one I thought I'd give a big mention to that Peter mentioned was Adam Sard. I thought he played a very good game. I know he's sort of coming off Ramadan or whatever it is that they
no, he's going into it,
celebrate.
Isn't he?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is he's in the middle of it. So if not eating during the course of daylight hours helps him to play like that, I'd say keep it going.
Don't eat.
But look, Cripps, again, without being dominant, was again very, very serviceable. He tends to get a lot more hand passes than kicks, but nevertheless, 9 kicks, 18 hand passes, 26 possessions, laid 6 tackles. He's certainly playing his part as the captain in leading from the front.
Vince, can I just stop you for a minute? I just want to stop you for a minute. Talking about Cripps, I'm really happy that he's not as dominant as last year, because for the last 3 or 4 years, we've just been so Cripps reliant. And if he didn't play well, like he basically carried the team, whereas now we're getting others that are coming in. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, look, I think last year you could probably say that a lot more. The previous 2 years to that, I didn't think he was quite playing up to the standard that we'd become accustomed to with him. Certainly through those years of 18 and 19, he played brilliantly, and I think won best and fairest in those 2 years. But I think 2020 through COVID and 2021, he wasn't playing his best football, but he certainly came back to form last year, winning the Brownlow medal. And yeah, look, I think a lot of coaches would be far happier if you weren't as reliant on one player. I know that, you can go through lots of examples, even other sides. Like I remember when Nathan Buckley was, the one player that Collingwood used to rely on week in, week out. And I know that I think it was Malthouse was coaching Collingwood back then, wanted that to stop because he wanted an overall team performance rather than being so heavily reliant on one player. And I think that's, it's good now that we've got an even blend of players right through the team. And I don't think you have to have Cripps dominating as such.
Peter, did you play with Scott Camporeale? Because one of our viewers has said
I don't think so.
Scotty
Camporeale started with Carlton in 1995 in our premiership.
Was it 95?
And Brownie left in about 1981.
I don't know. I can never remember. I just remember we used to have good players. But you obviously remember him, Peter. What do you think of Ollie Hollands?
I like him. I think they're working on the theory that if you run long enough and hard enough and quick enough, eventually the ball's going to come your way. And I think they work on the theory that he's our best runner. There's no doubt about that. You only have to see the coverage of the ground that he actually covers. That he eventually he will win the ball, and that was evident. And I agree with Vince. I thought his first game was okay, but his second game has improved. And in fact, interestingly enough, when Vince said to me before, make sure you got your votes organised, well, I actually put Ollie in for one. So
why not?
I'm happy to give him a vote.
Why not?
In fact,
We'll get to that in a minute.
Now I've got Charlie in at 3, I've got Ed in at 2, and I've got Ollie in at 1. So they're my votes from last week. You mentioned Patrick before, Cripps, the skipper. I'm just throwing it out here, but I just a quick comment. A captain's role on the day of the game, to me, I think once upon a time, and maybe I'm talking too far back, but the role of a captain was firstly being involved with the match committee and having an input into the selection of the side, and then secondly on the ground. The captain was the one that was actually making moves before the coach's box even decides to make a move, or at least been in a situation where he's either encouraging or berating the other players, or giving them a bit of a serve out there if they're not actually doing what they're doing. And I make the comment, and it's not just Patrick Cripps as being a nice guy, but there's a lot of captains right across the competition that I just don't think. I mean, do they go out and they flip the coin and bring them into a huddle and then tell them that they've got to play well and stuff like that? But realistically, the captain's job's not to do that. The captain's job is to be a mongrel out there and get the best out of their players.
I think you're talking about a different era, Peter. Now you can't yell at kids. It's all got to be, it's okay to be second best. And I mean, I agree. I've seen Sam Doherty do it a couple of times, before the game, or he drags them in and gives them a serve. But I think the days of where people just tear strips off each other is long behind us.
I actually think, Peter, there is a role for captains in upholding standards within the team. Now, that can be on the ground and it can be off the ground. I can tell you that I've been told from very reliable sources that I'll give you an example. Luke Hodge, this is one of the things that makes a real captain. One of the new Hawthorn players came into the team and they had a match, and I think he took off his jumper and threw it onto the ground because it was dirty or it was whatever it was. And he grabbed him by the,
scruff of the neck,
and said, by the scruff of the neck, and said, "If I ever see you disrespect that Guernsey ever again, you will never play a game for this football club." And he basically pinned him up against the wall and said, "Pick it up now and treat that thing with respect. That you're at the Hawthorn Football Club now, not some two-bit suburban or country hick town club. You're at the Hawthorn Football Club. You respect that Guernsey and respect the opportunity you're being given." And therein lies just some of the leadership qualities that made Luke Hodge a fantastic captain back when Hawthorn were winning premierships at the around about 10 years ago. But anyway, that's just an example. I think that there's a place for that. I'm not sure whether Patrick Cripps has got that in him. I don't really see any evidence of that style of thing with him. Maybe he's a different style of captain. Whether he does the sorts of things that captains used to do in your day, Peter, I don't know. Sticks Kernahan was always a great captain. Mark McClure, again, whether he was captain or just an on-field leader, used to uphold standards and hold players to account and never apologise for it. Those old Sunday mornings that you guys used to have at the club, what do they call them? The pleasant Sunday mornings? Well, sometimes they weren't as pleasant as they sounded because if you came off a loss, some boys would get a bit of a talking to the next day. Yeah.
Anyway, I take your point about the fact that it's a different era. I know that, and as I said last week, the game is played, 90% psychological and 10% physical, all of that sort of thing. But I just think that, and I threw this up just as a subject for discussion. I'd be interested to see what your viewers are thinking about it. But at the end of the day, I think that there is a role that the captain's got to play on the day, in the game, in the heat of the battle, and he's got to be able to be directing traffic and, making. And look, there was in that very last probably 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of that game on Thursday night. Charlie went back and he was actually in behind the ball. Is that something that a captain makes just off the top of his head, or does he wait for the match committee and the backs coach or the forwards coach to make that sort of move? It could be too late by then. So he's Johnny on the spot. He can see whether someone's getting beaten or someone's can improve or something's not working. He could see that and make that change immediately on the spot.
Yeah. Just a couple of things before. Oh, sorry, Vince. Go on.
That's all right. Go on, Joe.
I was going to say we're going according to our script, Vince. So we need to move on.
Yep.
Just before we move on to our votes, I know Peter's given his. there's one player I just don't understand his role at the club, and I've got a funny feeling he doesn't either. Is Zach Fisher? Is he a mid? Is he a forward? What do you think about? I just think the guy looks a bit like he's confused, and he plays like it. So either of you can answer me. I just don't know whether he's going to last. I mean, he's been there, 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah.
I think
see,
I think that Fisher is probably he wouldn't be in your best 25 players, put it that way, in the club.
I don't think so either.
I think he would be outside the 25. I may stand corrected, but and look, there was a couple of times he made some good choices in that last quarter. He came on and he did actually have some possessions there that were important. As a full-time role, doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of him, but anyway. So,
by the way, just one last comment I wanted to make about that captaincy and leadership issue. Isn't it ironic that it's actually the 30th anniversary of that famous game at the MCG between Carlton and Essendon, where Stephen Kernahan took a fantastic mark, absolutely sensational mark, went back, the scores were already level, went back to all we needed was a point to win, and if not a goal, and he kicked it out of bounds on the full. But the point I want to make about that is, we tend to concentrate on the end result, but the thing that admired me about Kernahan and captains of his ilk is that they demanded the ball. They were screaming, yelling, "Kick it to me! Quick, deliver it to me now. Let me have a one-out opportunity with my opponent." They were players who demanded to be involved in tight situations when the game needed to be won, and that's what made them such great captains. And Kernahan played something like 226 games as captain of Carlton. I think that was a record at the time, and an AFL record up until last year when Joel Selwood eventually took over and overtook him. But
at least he redeemed himself the week later, Vince. He kicked the goal against North.
Next week, same situation against Hawthorn, kicked the goal.
Just quickly, I know that you've got to move on, and I won't have too much more time. But one of the things that possibly is going to happen now, Charlie had a night out on Thursday at 5. Now, next week when he lines up, he's going to come under scrutiny, and it's like Owie. They will put a player on Owie now that they and Carlton need to understand and be in a situation where if one's down, then someone else has got to step up to the role, and someone else has got to be the goal scoring opportunity. Not just think that this is going to happen week in and week out. If you get enough players playing well, particularly in and around the forward, you will have a situation where a lot of sides won't be able to match up against them, and someone's going to bob up and be a thorn in their side. But even young Holland on the wing now, all of a sudden he's had 2 games in, and sides are going to be starting to take a bit of notice of him now and go, shit, we've got to give him the respect that he deserves. And
stop his run.
You often see, and you mentioned Fisher before. Fisher kicked a goal in, I think it was the 3rd quarter. It was to Conning, I think, that passed it to him. He strolled in and kicked a goal. Well, at that stage, I don't think Geelong had given him any credit whatsoever, and didn't give him the respect that he deserved. And of course, he kicked the goal. So, in that situation, I just think that don't be too reliant on the fact that Charlie kicked 5 and you're going to expect him to come out and do it the next week. This is not going to. I'm sure he would love to, but at the end of the day, these sides are going to be in a situation where they're going to make provision and change up their side to actually be able to negate things like that.
Peter, while I got you on the screen, can you repeat your votes? Who did you go? 3 votes?
Given Charlie. Charlie got 3. I threw Ed in for 2, and I gave young Holland 1.
Now, people, we know Jeremy Carriman was the best on the ground, but we're only worried about the Carlton players
Yes.
here. So, Vince, your votes?
Yes, very similar. I also thought that Charlie Curnow was the most important player on the ground for us, and I tend to give my votes based on impact. You know, which players have had the biggest impact on the game and on the result for us. So, and I felt 5 goals, was a tremendous effort. I think if he can keep up form like that, he is going to be one heck of a dangerous player if we happen to get in the finals. I gave 2 votes to Blake Acres. I thought he played a very good game on the wing, and I'm really glad to see that that paid off. And I gave 1 to Ed Curnow for another excellent game. As I said earlier, 26 possessions, 8 tackles and a goal. And I thought there were few players better than him on the ground.
Okay, what I might do, I'll give my votes in a minute. What I'll do is I'll set up a leaderboard. So I'll get your votes from last week, and we'll put it up each week. I gave 3 to Charlie. I mean, he kicked 5 goals. It's pretty simple. The 2 votes, it could have gone either way. I actually thought Sardi did a good role. I thought he played a good game. But as Peter says, what I don't like about his game is if he turns the ball over and the ball rebounds back, he's gone. If we've got to learn a bit more forward pressure. And I gave 1 vote to Blake Acres, with Ollie Hollands just a little bit stiff, missing
An
out.
honourable mention. An honourable mention.
Honourable mention, yeah.
Oh, look, by the way, I think if you really look at it, you could easily have made a case for about a dozen Carlton players, I thought. They all really played a lot better as a team last Thursday night, and they're going to need to keep doing that if they're going to win enough games to make the finals.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, one of the things that Charlie did do on Thursday night, which was really important, he took the ball at the highest point in the marking contest.
Yes.
And that's something that probably he hadn't been doing. He didn't do it the week before, but this week just gone, that at the highest point. And if he's on that situation, and interestingly enough, Harry did that in that last 5. So those marks were taken at the highest point. Now this is when they get a run and jump at it. When they're not at a run and jump at it, and they've got people standing on them, it could be a different outcome. And then obviously we have to have a different avenue to goal.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, good.
So guys, we're going to move on to the game next week. I can tell you now that West Coast Eagles are about 30 points up with 4.5 minutes to play, and we play GWS next week.
In Sydney.
In Sydney, and they're coming off a loss. So I don't know if the coach will yell at them or make them run. So I'll go to you first, Peter. Who do you think will win? Do you think we'll make any changes, and why do you think Carlton will or won't win?
I didn't pick Carlton last week. I picked Geelong.
Keep going like that.
Yeah. No, sadly, Joe, I'm actually going to pick Carlton to win over GWS. However, I do still make that point that the balance has got to be right in the side. Now, you can't discount GWS given the fact that their players have come off 2 losses and they're in a situation where they're going to be pretty hungry. So Carlton's got to be switched on. I wouldn't like to see what happened on Thursday night. I know that, we hung on to win and stuff like that. But as far as I'm concerned, when 3/4 time comes and you're 23 points up, that scoreboard to me still says 0-0-0. And you reset and you start again. You don't give up 2 goals straight away. That's frustrating because all that does is gives them a sniff. And then you could be in a bit of strife. But it'll be it'll be Carlton against GWS for mine.
Peter, any changes that you can see?
Who would barring any injuries and that, assuming everyone's available, who would you bring back into the team subject to availability? And who would you leave out?
Oh, well, the first one I'd leave out would be I've got a question mark over Silvani.
Yeah.
And I have a question mark over McGovern.
Interesting. Okay.
So
you're not
Vince,
necessarily saying to drop them, but you're saying there's a question mark over them, whether you play them or not. Who would you bring in for them if you were going to drop either or both of those two players?
Well, if McGovern was out, I would still retain Silvani and put de Koning behind.
Right.
In that sort of role I was discussing before.
Yep.
If McGovern stays in, Silvani goes out, I would then I'd still use de Koning either forward in and around centre half, alternating between him and Harry.
Yep.
Walsh is not available. Is Hewitt? Is he available?
They say he's going to play. They say he's going to play. They say, but I mean, he had a broken bone in his hand. So
right. Well, Hewitt would be the only other one that I would bring in. Hewitt was in my votes last week.
And who would you leave out if he came in?
I think Fisher.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one I was going to say.
Gina's just pointed out that our VFL side lost and there was no standouts there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention too. Yeah, no,
Lockie
the
Plowman
VFL
played
side
right,
lost to
Paddy Dow.
They lost to Geelong on Friday night. They lost fairly convincingly, and no one really stood out of any of the AFL listed players in any major way. So no one's really putting their hand up at reserves level. So it's just a case of getting AFL senior listed players who are out injured back into the team.
What about Marchbank? How far off is he?
He's another one, very important player, if you ask me.
Did he play on the weekend?
No. You'd think that some of these guys are going to have to come back, at least play one or maybe two games in the reserves.
Yeah, but
it's
he
an
didn't
interesting.
Play a lot of games last year.
Still came back via the reserves, Joe, when he came back.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You can't just give him one game. He didn't play a lot last year. You can't just give him one game and then go, okay, go in there. See, I'll be honest with you. I think we won't see Marchbank again. Honestly, he's injury prone. The other one is Cunningham. He's a fantastic player when he's fit, but he's always injured. And he hurt his shoulder play wrestling in the gym with teammates.
My point is this: if they're fit, they are big candidates to come back into the team, subject to fitness and form. And I think that both of them would need to come back via the VFL, show some form, and then get their opportunity in the seniors. But anyway, look, we'll soon find out whether they're available or not. I personally think that Carlton will get over the top of GWS next week. They're in a sort of half a rebuild mode, I think. It's hard to know where they're at, GWS. They really fell out of favour last year. They went from being a finalist in 2021 to being, I think, in the bottom four last year. So, new coach, they're still getting used to him. He's still getting used to them. I think it does take a bit of time. They've gone over to Perth tonight and lowered their colours to a team who's only won 2 games in their last 27. So I think that probably shows you that GWS have got a few holes in their team that need to be filled in the passage of time. But I think we're a side that should be able to account for them. If we can't account for them next week, well, then I think there's some big question marks over us.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree. I think we will win. Again, the only change I would make is if Fisher is, if George Hewitt is fit, I'd bring George Hewitt in. I think either Fisher or Lockie O'Brien will probably get the bullet, given Lockie O'Brien was even the sub, but they might make someone like Ed Curnow or Fisher the sub. I think Jack Silvani, as much as Gina and Lana are going to hate me, I think he's on his last chance, to be honest. He just looks lost. He looks like he needs to get back into the VFL and get a bit of confidence. I thought last week in the first quarter, he took this great mark, and I thought, oh, he's on, and then you didn't see him again. So
what about Jesse
I don't
Motlop?
know.
Do you think he did enough in the first 2 rounds to not have a few question marks about whether he needs a run in the VFL? Because he's done okay and he's kicked the odd goal, but he's not what you'd call a 4-quarter player at the moment.
No, but he's young, Vince. He's got a bit of an excuse. He's still learning the craft a bit. Someone like Fisher has been there 6-7 years. The same with Owies and Durden. I mean, they're not, even though they're youngish, they've been there. They've been in the system 3 or 4 years. Peter will tell you, you can't just step up from, suburban football and then, 1-2 years. They're boys basically.
I understand that, Joe, but what I'm saying is, and Brownie would attest to this, is even in his day, the 18, 19-year-olds, they were playing under 19s football. They weren't even playing, reserves football on a lot of occasions. So to drop an 18 or 19-year-old is not a big deal at this stage of their career. So that's why I'm saying, does Jesse Motlop maybe need a couple of weeks in the reserves just to get a bit more of the ball, have a bit of a run on the ball at times and get his hands dirty a bit more and kick some more goals and get some confidence? Because playing every week as a small forward when you've got Owies and you've got Durden now coming back into the team wouldn't be easy. At one stage, I had to look at our forward line there in that last quarter, and apart from Mackay and Curnow, the 2 twin towers, we had the smallest forward pockets and half-forward flankers that I've ever seen. We had Motlop, Durden, Owies, and Fisher. And the so-called high half forwards like Jack Silvani, they were off the ground. So, I just wonder whether that's too many. There's probably one too many of those small forwards. I don't know that you can fit 3 of them in the same team. Do you? What do you think,
Possibly.
Brandon?
I think the players that you've just mentioned, if they were capable of being able to rotate through the middle, which obviously they're not, they would be of more value to the side. And I go back to you mentioned Collingwood, their score. Now, for the last 2 weeks, they've kicked 40 goals in 2 games of football, and the contribution of guys like Mitchell, who've come into the side, is going to be very important to them. It's allowed Adams to make an impact on the forward line. Now, Adams has never been a goal kicker or anything like that, but yet here he is bobbing up, kicking a couple of goals. And the point I made before about the fact that, if you're going to rely upon the Twin Towers, well, as you recall, in 2000, the Twin Towers were actually dropped, weren't they? By a couple of planes that came in from somewhere else. But the situation is, and I know I'm not making light of that. All I'm suggesting is that if you take those 2 out of the game, where's our avenue to goal? Where's our contribution from these guys that are going to be able to score goals and should be able to score goals? Now, like I said, if they could rotate through the mid, then sure, keep them in. But if not, then we've got to find another avenue.
Yeah, I think that's what they've been trying to do with Fisher anyway, trying to rotate him through the mid. But then you've also got Jack Martin. I mean, he didn't play forward. Where was he? Gold Coast Suns. He played in the middle. So I think the injury to Zach Fisher sort of may have ruined some of their plans like that too, Peter, where playing him in the middle and rotating him through the back line as well. But I don't know. We'll all see. So, look, on that note, Peter, on behalf of us here at Blue Sunday, I'd like to thank you for joining us. You're most welcome to join every week if you care. I mean, if you're not doing anything and you want to have a bit of a bitch and a moan and talk about the Blues, hopefully next week we'll be sitting here going, oh, gee, did you see that? We won by 10 goals. But I don't know if that's the case. But anyway, Peter, on behalf of me and Vince, I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. And like I said, you're a friend of the show, so feel free to join any time.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if I'm at any time, if you think I'm being too controversial about some of the subjects that I approach,
we love it. We love it.
No, we love it.
We like your upfront, straight down the line, no bullshit sort of approach to everything. And and your honest, genuine feedback and commentary on all things Carlton. And it's been a delight to have you the last couple of weeks, and may it long continue.
Righto, guys. Thank you.
All right then, Peter. We'll see you next week. See you, mate.
We'll see
Bye.
what happens
Cheers.
next week.
Okay. See you in Thailand.
See you, mate.
So, Vince.
How good's Peter Brown, eh? He's been fantastic.
He's a nice bloke. I like his comments. I mean, I know he's only played like about 30 or 40 games, but he has played at the senior level, unlike a lot of us.
And played in the Premiership, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fantastic. So, Vince, we've talked enough about our beloved Carlton, which brings me to the next point. Vince Golden Tonsils Loccisano's home a bit. Have a look at a strapping young lad in that top left hand. Have a look at him. Look, Vince.
Hang on. I was 21 back then. That was only, I don't want to tell you how many years ago that was.
Last week.
33 years ago.
What a strapping young man. And look, let's just go through. Let's go through here. Vince down in the bottom here. In the bottom left,
with two of our Premiership Cups.
No, that's the bottom right. I'm down here. Look at you in your suit. Look,
the other one, hosting a function.
Was that your emceeing, or were you doing an auction?
I was emceeing a Carlton function on the Gold Coast. I think I was there, but it might have been Perth. I'm not sure. Yep.
And here you are up in the vineyards, relaxing.
Yes,
up in the top right.
That's up at Ngambie in Central Victoria. I think that photo was taken up at Mitchelton Winery. Remember that?
Yeah, and down in the bottom right, Vince holding a couple of cups. So, Vince, our aim, right, is if we win this year's flag, you've got to go get a photo with it.
Okay, Joe, it would be my pleasure to do that. Let me tell you.
So,
absolute
Vince,
pleasure.
2 weeks ago, you gave us an omen bet. What was it? Vinny Rocco or something like that? Was that
3 weeks ago, I gave you one called Vinny Rock, and it won at about $1.40. Yeah, and then I gave you one called Promise Me Heaven the following week, and that one as well at about $4.80. And last week we didn't have any luck. Our bubble burst a bit. I think I gave you. I'm trying to think, what was the name of the horse?
Oh, I can't remember, Vince.
I'm pretty sure it was at Mildura.
Mildura. Yeah, Mildura harness. Obviously didn't win.
I know it was. It wasn't Mildura. It was Ballarat. And it was called No Win, No Worries. Then that was coming up our draw.
That's right.
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't run a place. I think it ran 5th or something like that. But anyway, I've got another one for you this week, Joe. Don't worry.
Hang on. Before that, I've thrown away that breaking news, but I've got some breaking news. I've got an ultra special guest to introduce.
Oh, really?
Rocco.
Hey. Oh, there's Rocco from the
Come on, man.
Come on, man. What are we doing here?
Hey, hang on. I'm
going to
get my girlfriend to give us a knock.
Good, mate. Good. Well, just keep going on with your golden tonsils, Loccisano.
I don't know why he calls me that.
Because, Vince...
At the jumper punch, Joe, they call me Big Vincenz these days.
All right. Next week, I reckon we should rename you. I reckon we'll come up with something, and next week we'll come up with something big.
Hey, Rocco, maybe we should get the viewers to give Vince a new name. What do you think?
All right, let's hear it.
All
right, let's hear it.
Hi,
Lana. Hi.
First prize is a coffee with Vince himself at North, I think. That should be the
North
prize.
Seafood and Grill, yeah.
So how are you?
Because I like to go to a seafood restaurant to have my coffee.
That's it.
As a matter of fact, he sends me across the road to his wife's business called the Garni.
Go there.
So we can have a coffee there.
Right. So, Rocco, before we get on to Vince's omen bet, you've been busy filming the jumper punch today. Anything we should be looking out for?
Oh, you're not going to want to miss this. We just finished half an hour discussion. Should we take something out or should we leave it in? So I'll let everyone watch and decide what you think about our comments, or mainly my comments this week. So always a bit of controversy. Love it.
Was there a big rant? Was there, Rocco?
it was outside the rant. The rant was actually a bit of a the rant was actually a bit of a motivational speech at the start, but yeah, it got into the banana of the week, and we got into it, and then I just said a few things I wasn't happy with, but yeah, everyone watch and you'll see. I think it's gonna, as always, big show. Rocco, Marcello, and SEN's very own Paul Sebastiani.
Rocco, can you tell the viewers, if they're not subscribers, what are the subscriptions to the Jumper Punch, and what specials do they get? I can see over your right ear, Schnitz. So tell the viewers if they're not subscribers.
I didn't mean this to be this, but
that's okay.
I'll do it anyway.
That's all right.
I'll do it anyway. All right. So if you join the Jumper Punch as a member, you can become a Mars or a Rocco or a Paolo. The Mars is only $3.99, and now Goken has come in from Snitz, and he has told us that if you become a member of the Jumper Punch, you get 25% off now. 25%. So there you go. So it's
not good for the diet.
And if you become a member too of the Rocco or the Parlour, you get a chance to sit on the couch, and you also get a chance to have a kick with Ange, and you get to sit with one of the legends and join in one of the interviews. So yeah, some good incentives. But just remember, if you just like and subscribe, that's more than enough. We're happy with that.
So Rocco, we've got a subscription here. It's called the Golden Tonsils, and it's it's 25 cents a year, right? And for that 25 cents, you get the exclusive Omen bet of the week before anyone else. So it'll well and truly pay for that 25-cent subscription.
Yeah, you can jump on the fixed odds before they come in after I declare it publicly.
So on that note, Vinny, what's your tip of the week, please?
Okay, well, as we saw, Charlie Curnow kicked 5 goals and was voted by all 3 of us tonight as best man on the ground. So we're going to go with Kilmore Harness Racing on Tuesday night, race 1.
Kilmore Harness. I'm just typing this in.
Yeah,
race 1. Tuesday night. Yeah, race
1, number 5.
Number 5. And what's it called?
Attaboy Charlie.
Oh, I like it.
All right.
What's it showing, Vince?
I don't know that the odds are out yet, but it'll be around about $6-7, I think, for the win. So put a little bit each way on it.
Put the house on it?
No, bet responsibly. Gamble responsibly, as we always say.
It.
Okay.
Now, there was one other one I was
shed.
thinking of recommending, which might not be a bad one to also have a go at.
We're getting 2 this week.
As the second one. Yeah, I'll give you a special on this one as well. This is Wednesday night.
Hang on, Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah. Bendigo Harness Racing.
Bendigo?
Yes. Harness Racing.
Yeah.
This is very professional of you, Joe, to be doing this while we're live on here.
Well, I want the viewers to
that's all right. Race 3, number 3.
Number 3, what's it called?
There's 4 letters in this horse's name. GAWN. And after the injury he copped in Brisbane on Friday night, I reckon he's pretty much gone. So race number 3 gone.
So we've got 2 this week. We've got the first one, Kilmore Harness, Tuesday night, Attaboy Charlie. So if you put $1,000 on that at $6, you'll get
don't go people to do that.
60,000. Then Vince, I think we should parlay it into $60,000 on Gorm.
These are Omen bets, Joe. They're not professional
I want
bets.
everyone to put all their money on the bet, all of it, all of it.
No, all of you. Now, if you want bets of that sort of nature, I would suggest that you follow Paul Sebastiani on the overnight crowd on SEN.
Come
on
on,
Fridays
Vince.
and Saturdays and Sundays.
Don't welch out now. I'm putting $1,000 on Tuesday night, and I'm putting it, parlaying it all into the Wednesday night. And if
Thanks,
it doesn't
Joe.
win, Vince will pay everyone their $1,000 bet.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I think it's
Excellent.
1 hour and 15 minutes. I think we ought to wrap up. What do you think?
No, we will. So guys, that's the end of the show. Don't forget, as Vince said before, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Don't forget to join our page in the blue corner. We're still there, still putting things on.
Facebook.
Don't forget,
All of that helps. All of that helps.
I'll put the man himself there, Rocco, one of the faces
And don't
of the
forget,
Jumper Punch.
one very important thing.
Oh,
Don't forget to watch the Jumper Punch on
Well, I'm doing that
Tuesday
now,
at
Vince.
7 o'clock. And
That's
don't forget the Wednesday show, Joe. Did you watch last Wednesday's show between Rocco and the other three boys from Collingwood, Richmond, and Essendon? Fantastic viewing. Really good viewing.
And I even watched his specials, where they
Yes.
have a footballer. So, Rocco, tell us about what's on your channel this week. So you got Jumper Punch.
Well, that's it. So this is on now, I suppose, in order. It's a Tuesday Jumper Punch. So everyone gets that new time
7
of 7 o'clock. So that's going to be, as I said, it's I think it's a show to watch this week. And then on the Wednesday, you got 7 o'clock. It's Forever Rivals. We got the 4 big clubs. We just go at each other. So that's a bit of fun. Yeah, the Collingwood supporter. Well, he's not too bright. So
I love him.
I usually, he's going to be a star, Manny. And then at 8 p.m. we have got. Let me see. Should I tell you? No. Wait for tomorrow. But we have got a triple premiership play, and I'm telling you, if you like stories and you like great funny stories, this is the man. So look out for that. And of course, every Sunday, I just want to say, I watched the show after we taped it, and I've been watching his show. Great show tonight. And Peter Brown, seriously, that's a get and a half. He's a star, that bloke, man. The insight that he gave, it really it carries a lot of weight when someone like that says something, and then I start questioning because he's saying something and I'm thinking, I don't think that, but he knows. I must be completely wrong. So, having Peter Brown on is an absolute fantastic get.
Yeah, we've got to thank Vince Loccisano for that. Okay, guys, we'd like to stay here and talk all night. I said I'd like to. I didn't say I will. I said
You're welcome.
So on that note, it's time to wrap up. Don't forget, next Sunday. So it's good night from me, Joe, in Bangkok.
And it's good night from me, Vince Loccisano, in Melbourne, Australia.
And Rocco.
And it's good night from me from the Jumper Punch studio.
So guys, don't forget in Reservoir. So guys, don't forget next Sunday, and don't forget Jumper Punch Tuesday, Wednesday night, and next Saturday the Blues play on April Fool's Day. Let's hope that it's after lunchtime and it's not an April Fool joke on us.
It is.
All right.
Is after midday.
Good night, everyone, and have a great week. Stay safe and bet responsibly. Don't listen to Joe. You'll end up poor.